Hello, Paul Dehart here. This video is about choosing the proper camera. We're going to do a brief camera comparison. We will compare the following cameras: the Canon SD1100IS, the Canon SD790IS, the Canon SX210IS, the Canon Rebel T3i, and the Olympus E500 EVOLT. Our first image here, this was taken with the Canon SD1100IS. This is an 8 megapixel point and shoot camera. Now you can see blown up, this picture is not the clearest, but it's still a pretty decent picture. Here's a similar picture taken with the Canon 790IS. This is a 10 megapixel picture. This is an older point and shoot. This is the Canon SX210IS. This is a 14.1 megapixel camera. This camera was released in 2010. This is the first DSLR camera here. This is the Canon Rebel T3i. This is our second DSLR, the Olympus E500 EVOLT. This is an 8 megapixel camera that was released in 2007. Here is a side-by-side comparison. This is the Canon SD1100IS and the Canon SD790IS on your right. Now, when you put these two pictures side by side, you can see the clear difference. Even though both cameras were released in 2008, the one on the left is a 8 megapixel, the one on the right is a 10 megapixel. Here's another side-by-side comparison. This is a 8 megapixel point and shoot, which is the 1100 on your left, versus an 8 megapixel DSLR, the Olympus E500, which you can see on your right. Now, looking at this picture, you can see a significant difference in quality. This is due to the image sensor that is found in the DSLR camera. And for variants, here's a close-up shot taken with the SD1100IS. Another close-up taken with the 790IS, the SX210IS, the Rebel T3i, and the Olympus E500 EVOLT. Now we will get into specific camera features. The SD1100IS actually doesn't have any particular features that set it apart from any other camera. So we will move on to the next. This photo was taken with the Canon SD790IS. This was not photoshopped at all. This was an actual picture taken with that particular camera. Basically, what you can do with this camera is select a specific color. Once you select that specific color, when you take an image, everything other than that color appears as black and white in the image. That really can make particular colors pop. I definitely like this feature. Now we'll move on to the SX210IS. This particular camera, back in 2010, offered more zoom than practically every other camera, which is why I purchased it. And the Canon T3i. Now, being a DSLR, one of the beautiful features of these cameras, one, you can select several different lenses. Also, you can adjust different features such as f-stop to get selective focus. Now imagine this particular image here if everything was in focus. That bee would not pop in the way that it does. And here we see a similar effect. This was taken with the Olympus E500 EVOLT. Again, I used the f-stop to create a selective focus. That really makes the flowers stand out. This is not a typical type of image that you can achieve with a point and shoot. And finally, we'll get into pricing. Now, I have to tell you that the prices I found my particular cameras for may not be typical. However, I do recommend checking local resources such as thrift stores, Facebook groups, any resale site basically. Just make sure you do your research first, and also test the functionality, full functionality of whatever you're looking to purchase. So we'll start with the Canon SD1100 IS. This camera was found at Goodwill a few weeks ago for $4.99. It did come with the charger and the battery. And the Canon 790 IS. This was also found at Goodwill. This particular camera was $5.99. Again, it came with a charger and a battery. The original MSRP on the last camera I forgot to mention was $280. On this particular camera, the 790, it retailed for $399 back in 2008. The Canon SX210 IS, I found this camera at Best Buy back in 2010. This particular camera was $300. Now on to the Canon T3i. This camera was also purchased at Best Buy for $650. Now this was actually a bundle. It came with a camera bag, a 16 gig memory card, and 2 lenses. The original MSRP on this package deal was $1,000. I found it on Black Friday last year for $650. And now onto the Olympus E500 eVolt. This was actually my first DSLR camera that I purchased. I chose to buy used just to get a feel for a DSLR, as I wanted more professional looking pictures. I didn't want to spend $600-700 off the bat. I wanted to make sure that I could get comfortable using a DSLR and I would get the results that I was looking for. Needless to say, I was completely satisfied. I found this camera on Craigslist for $250. That was a very good deal. Back in 2007, this camera retailed for $1,400. And for an older camera, it works very, very well. So if you're in the market for a DSLR, I recommend looking used first if you do not have the money to spend up front. So what do you choose? Well, that's entirely up to you. Things that you do need to consider, however, are 1, your budget, and 2, what you're actually going to be using your camera for. Although you can get great pictures with a typical point and shoot, you don't have the full control over an image. And there's several other things that you cannot do without having a DSLR. Having the versatility of being able to use several different lenses can make all the difference. Whether you're shooting something up close or you're shooting something far away that you want to zoom in on. So these are all things that you need to take into consideration before making that decision. No matter what path you choose to go down, I definitely recommend doing research. Thank you for watching. Again, this was presented to you by Paul DeHart.